This is it. This is the video that I have been waiting to do. This is the podcast I have been waiting to film for a long time because it is imperative that we know what it means to understand the ego and the soul. This is really hugely important. It requires us to really be knowledgeable. Really being knowledgeable enough and having a good sense of knowledge about which is which, and differentiating between them, and doing all that, because it really takes us to know what these two things mean so that we can live a soul-centered life. One thing that I just want to clarify about my Money Cannot Buy Happiness video that I want to say here is there's one section of the video where I was talking about a nice car, a house, all this, a vacation, a pipe dream. And what I meant was, if you're going to be so ambitious about it and so hardworking and so egoic and you're going to fall prey to spiritual narcolepsy, and just be so attached to wanting to get it and wanting it to be a certain way, attached to the form of that house or the thing or whatever, and so driven to achieve it, you're not going to get it. It's a pipe dream. But if you connect to your soul and your intuition, and you co-create with the universe, you do your part and flow with the universe, surrender attachment, you take action, you show the universe, hey, I have power and all this, and you flow with it, then the truth is that anything is possible when you open your connection to the universe. So that's all that I meant when I said that, because that whole thing was about ego. And I want to clarify that it's all how you approach it. It is all how you approach travel and getting houses and all of this. It doesn't have to be all bad. If you do it in a soul-centered way without attachment, and you do it in a way where you are living in the energy of joy and simplicity and peace within you, and you just so happen to travel and gain experiences and you surrender attachment, and you live mindfully and in a present, grounded way, then there's a lot of benefits to travel. I'm just saying, don't travel with the attachment to just traveling in terms of egoic attachments. So I think that the egoic attachments is all I really meant in that one episode with money. I was talking about money and the ego specifically in that episode that I did on Tuesday, because really the ego can hold us back very much in the light that I'm going to be discussing here. And I mean, really, what it comes down to is, this need to not live a simple life. Because simplicity really brings peace to the soul, and to live spiritually is to not need all these bells and whistles, these material things, to be happy. And so this can include the really expensive things, because I was separating out what you can buy and what is really expensive to buy in terms of, vacations is very expensive to travel. And really, money should be used only to fulfill your soul's needs and not your ego needs. And so, that's what it is all about. And I will come to terms with the fact that traveling is an experience. And it does enrich your mind, and it does enrich your perspective and all that. But if you're going to be so materially focused on traveling without surrendering and co-creating, but instead working so hard and being so attached to it, then that is where traveling is not good, and that is where all those things that I said Well, pipe dreams, because they are, if you're from your ego. So that's all that I meant. I want to discuss the ego and the soul fully in this episode of the Cosmic Sky Podcast, which is more than an astrology podcast. It's a spirituality podcast. And, if you watch yesterday's podcast and you hear this one, I think that you're going to find a difference between it, because I kind of repeated myself in that one. I got a nice comment, which this person was very, very nice to it. I'm pleasantly surprised by that. But in yesterday's podcast, if you listen to it, you're listening to a version of me that comes from a place of insecurity. I rushed through it. I explained as in depth as I could. I kind of repeated myself from my perspective. And I was not feeling the most secure within myself because of, the whole details with recording things and, doing all that. Things are confirmed now, and it really, really helps when you are secure, because when you feel secure, it makes a very, very big difference. When I am secure, I can really, really let loose and do my thing, but when I'm not secure, then there's a heaviness. There is a, there's just an energy that you're pressing on. You're trying to make peace with it. You're trying to be present. You're trying to deliver it out, but you just can't, because it's like this energy that's just, it's that kind of energy. And so I couldn't deny that. And so that was an episode that I'm not going to refilm again and redo again. It was the way it was. And I think that it was fairly good for how it was. But so I'm moving on. I do not fall into perfectionism. And, that is an ego thing. And so for those who are constantly about improving and making something better, and not just seeing the beauty of how things are, with making it, with improving it to a point of doing it with their soul, how their soul wants to improve it, or how it feels right in their soul to improve it, and not just an ego thing needing improvement, then that is where I don't have a problem with improvement. But when it becomes an ego thing, it becomes perfectionism real easily. And 9 years from now, when that North Node enters Virgo, I'm going to encourage all of you to come from Pisces. Be one, be soulful, but know that you have power, co-create, manifest your dreams into reality. Those are all the stuff I'm going to be saying at that time. But anyway, that's all the stuff I'm going to be saying then. But so anyway, I'm not looking to change any of these podcast episodes. I'm not looking to redo any of these podcast episodes. I may be in a different mood one day and a different mood another day. I just want to honor that and not change it because, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't this. So, okay. So the ego and the soul, let's just delve right into this. So these are the two different senses of self. The ego and the soul are different senses of self. That's what they really are in their essence, in their full qualities, is these two things. Any limiting belief that you have in your mind, which is, I can't do this. Life is tough. You have to earn things to get through life. No one's gonna love me. I'm not worthy of love. Certain things are stupid, or this is this way, or you're dumb, or I can't shine my light, I have to follow others, or I can't be my authentic self and I have to just go along with what others want. That's all ego. It's all ego. All those limiting beliefs that we have inside of our minds is ego. And the fears that we have towards all these things. Because the ego deals a lot with fears. It deals a lot with this. And these things can easily become your thoughts. and thoughts turn into actions based off of these fears and these limiting beliefs and these things that you think about. They easily become thoughts and actions. They easily become things that you act upon, and it turns into an internal voice. So what this means is, you know, what is your internal voice saying? Is it beating you up? Is it being critical over you? Is it holding you back from living a life of your dreams? Living a life of your deepest, heartfelt desires? I mean, what is that internal voice saying? And this internal voice that's critical and beats you up is based on all of these limiting beliefs and fears that you have. The ego is also fear. The ego holds your soul back. It holds you back from living the life that you are truly authentically meant to live. It limits the soul contracts and soul agreements that you signed up to embody in this life when you signed up to planet Earth. When you got down to planet Earth, you had certain soul plans that you were meant to fulfill this life. That life was set up for you in a way by the universe to help your soul evolve based on several factors, the North Node being one. And I think that the North Node is easier and more spiritual than Saturn. And I'm more, I resonate more with my North Node than I do my Saturn. And I resonate more with my South Node than I do my Saturn. I think I will just focus on my North Node. And, my Saturn is to be added in as a sort of, addition to it. But really, my Saturn's in water and North Node's in Earth. And water and Earth are two very different energies. So there's so many factors to consider. I'm just going to consider my North Node. I want to keep it simple for myself because, there's a lot of value in Saturn, but I think that the North Node is more spiritual, more based on the soul, and what the soul wants. And it shows up in the world. The universe works with you in a way to help your soul get what you want. And I do want to kind of criticize myself right now and correct myself that every soul path and experience and life is different from one another because we all have a different North Node. Some person's life may open up for them to travel and do all this and explore, and others may be more simple and meant to be on your immediate surroundings in the small, and doing what feels right. And what feels right is different to every person. It's not just a one size fits all. What feels right to one person is going to be different from what feels right to another. So I think that's what I want to just. If I had to ruin myself with the previous things that I've said in videos, that would be one of those things. If I am to be Adam and I am to say, no, I think that this is wrong because there is this, voice that is inside of me telling me, I don't think this is true. I don't think I really believe this on a soul level and really see this as truth, as fact. And so that's, what I want to amend myself with saying that, what I want to refrain from what I have previously said on a couple of videos. I'm human. I have an ego. No one is exempt from having an ego. Raise your hand if you have an ego. Oh, look. Everybody is raising their hand. Everybody has an ego. And you can't escape the ego. It is part of what makes us human. And so we have to, and I'm going to discuss that further in depth in this episode. But, dealing with, what it comes down to is this internal voice that gets formed, because of your fears. The ego holds you back from, expressing your true desires. The ego holds you back. it can be really, it can be really, really limiting to you. When this happens, in a way, because if you're in your ego, if you're in logic and you're in all that, you're going to be held back and you're going to live a small, meaningless life. And that's what I want to say, is living a small, meaningless life where you're just going along with society's conditions, going along with what you have to do to get around the world, da-da-da-da-da-da. No. That's not an authentic soul-led life, and that is not a life that I will live in my life. I will not succumb to all these conditions of society with the ego. No. No, 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 no. I am 22 years old. I haven't even gone into the working and all that, and I have enough awareness to say I'm not going to live like this. So a lot of people realize this later on in their life. I'm realizing it now in my life, at this point in my life right now. I'm coming to these realizations later in my life so that it can pave the way for later on in my life. So, the ego is basically the part of you that is who you are on an everyday level. It is who you are every day. When you wake up in the morning, when you do all these things, when you have your morning coffee or brush your teeth or meet with this person, go to this job, have this relationship, take care of this part of the house, or or whatever. It's that conscious part of you. Like, the ego is conscious. The ego is conscious, and it's you on an everyday basis. That's what it really means. The ego rules over your accomplishments, your achievements, and how you identify with those achievements. Like to say, I did this, and I worked so hard for this, and I slaved away this goal, and I've come this far, and I've done this, and I've achieved. That's all your ego. So I know about this person who says, I worked so hard for this life that I have, and you're in your ego. You're in your ego. You were succumbing to the society's rules and conditions, and I feel so sad for you. That makes me sad. And that's what I want to say. So the ego is accomplishments. The ego is what your ambitions are. The things that you want to achieve. Not only what you physically achieve in, real reality. But what you want to achieve. All those things that we want to achieve is based on our egos. The ego is also self-criticism. It is self-criticism. And that's exactly what it is. When we are in our egos, we beat ourselves up. We criticize ourselves. We're not loving and kind to ourselves. We're not accepting of ourselves as we are. Pisces South Nodes, Virgo North Nodes listening to this, I think that you should really, really hear this also, because accept that you're not victim to the universe, that you have power. Virgo South Nodes, Pisces North Nodes, you don't need to beat yourself up over the little details and not getting things right, not getting things logical, and not getting things logical, not attending to everyone's need, and not serving every single person in the whole wide world, and not attending to everybody's needs and all these details with health and work and daily routines and all this stuff. That is the Virgo South Node, Pisces North Node. Whereas, the ego says, love and light. It's all good. I am beautiful. I am whole. I am one. I am worthy of being me. I am worthy of living this life. Because you are. In your soul, if you release attachment and co-create, you are worthy. You are worthy. And the soul wants to remind you that you are worthy. So stop the negative, internal, mean voices in your head that judge you. So get out of your ego. Drop into your soul with knowing that having compassion for all and having compassion for yourself, like you are interconnected with the all, and that is what the soul is. It's interconnection. More on that later. The ego is also dealing a lot with our flaws. What's wrong with us? The ego wants to always fixate on what's wrong with the world, what's going wrong with us, what's going wrong with our lives, and fixates and dwells on that, and judges people for it. It is all resistant and wants to try to prove a point to others, and fighting, and is mean, and is projecting, and it is all of these kinds of things. The ego is why there is so much hate and so much sorrow and so much division in the world. So much disrespect and negativity in the world is because we're all caught up in our egos. There's certain individuals right now who are really, really living at low vibrations of themselves because they are living in their ego, and this is not acceptable. We have to find a world where we're living more from our souls that is more loving and more compassionate and treating everyone as equal, because that's the fact, is we're all equal, and we need to co-create this world. We need to co-create a better world, and I hope that pretty soon in my lifetime, maybe by my Saturn return in 2032 or something like that, then we are moving on the path to co-create a better, more kinder, more fair, more diplomatic, but more authentic world. Authenticity does not come from the ego. It comes from your soul. And that's the truth of it. That's the very truth of it. So, limiting beliefs and fears. You can easily, become. So, I've already said that. I'm going back, kind of not with myself here. So, the flaws. The ego fixates on what is wrong, what's not working, what's not well, all of that. The more you feed your ego, the less that you are interconnected. You forget that you are interconnected with all of everything, the earth, the sky, every creature, every animal, every bird, every dog, every other human being, everything and everyone. When you hear a Sasquatch sigh, you fall in your ego and you lose connection with the oneness of the all, with your divine sense of intuition, or that gets drowned out by the thunder of your ego. The less you are connected with all of what is, including the divine. And you're less connected to your love. You're less connected to the love and compassion that comes from a place of truth and heart. Comes from your heart. Love and compassion are not mental, logical things. They are heart-based things. If you're going to treat someone kindly, be sincere about it. Be genuine about it. If you don't feel like you want to treat them this way, then you don't have to cater to them and do all that if it doesn't come from a heart-centered and compassionate place from your heart. If you don't really mean it, and it's from your logical mind. And don't expect yourself to mean it. Don't expect yourself, oh, I don't feel this way. Don't be so critical of yourself, like, why am I not feeling love? Why am I not compassionate? Oh, I must do that. Well, then you get into your ego, then you judge yourself, and you do all this. When you're in your soul, you're like, it's okay if I feel these feelings. And you know what? I can change this, because in my humility, when I drop in to the oneness of all, I can realize I don't have to treat this person badly. I don't have to be mean or cruel or, whatever to this person. When you're in ego, you treat people with love and compassion. When you're in your soul, you treat people with love and compassion. Guess what happened when I was in 5th grade? The teacher that I had was not in her soul, was not living from her soul, because she was mad, raging, and really, really kind of, it really made me scared, and really, really made me feel under pressure. You were just so intense and so angry. She was not very self-aware to be conscious of what triggers her, to be able to drop into her heart and speak from an honest place of integrity and truth. But you don't have to shout and be mean and be so intense and get in a student's face and scare the living daylights out of them and all of this. Another example of someone who is in her ego is, if you've ever seen Dance Moms, Abby Lee Miller. She was in her ego, season 5, when she shouted at a kid because of a wound she had, or a limiting belief she had about that you have to earn things in order to feel worthy, that you're not entitled in this world. Shouting at a girl, she deserves nothing. Don't have an attitude that you're entitled to this world. You have to earn it. That triggered her, and it was an attack to her, and she reacted because she was triggered. You could tell she was triggered in the episode, because there was this, South Node in Sagittarius having those fixed, beliefs, limiting beliefs, and when those limiting beliefs get triggered, then you're going to be fiery and act that way. 2 planets in Scorpio, really, really intense. All of that. And then the kid in the show basically just said, well, if you're going to yell at me, I'm going to cry. That's all she said. She basically said, if you're going to treat me this way, I'm going to react this way. I'm going to feel this feeling. I'm going to, if you hurt me, I'm going to feel hurt. If you attack me, I'm going to feel attacked back. But I think to say, if you attack me, I'm going to attack you back, well, I think that's ego. Yeah, I think that's ego. But to say, but just to say, if you're going to yell at me, I'm going to cry. Wouldn't you, if you were a child in this show, and if somebody was yelling at you and being mean to you and all of that, wouldn't you cry? If somebody was hurting you and belittling you and emotionally abusing you, being so disrespectful and so not compassionate and in the ego towards you, wouldn't you cry? And then, she wasn't having that, because she said, get out. And so she walked out. She walked out. Well, good for her for standing in her truth. And good for her for walking out. But then she came back in. And she basically catered to somebody who was in their ego instead of standing in that truth. She was right. We have to train, we have to really look at children to look at how they can be in their souls. And when they are speaking something from their soul and not their ego, we have to, respect that and honor that and, love them for who they are and, know where they're coming from and not try to judge or shame or, belittle or scold or punish them for that. If they should, speak out. And then she said, I'm sorry if I did this. I'm sorry. Well, yeah. Did she really feel that? Or did she just cater to somebody who was really, really abusive emotionally and destructive? And then, Abby just said, that's taking the high road. Well, yeah. Sure. That's taking the high road. Yeah. Anything to make you feel happy. Anything to just serve your ego and, not really the part of you that just loves without needing to yell at somebody and hurt somebody. Because if you're in your soul energy, you do not treat somebody like that. You do not. So that was wrong. And on the show, if you see episodes, I've seen every single episode to see how, intense she can be and how, making kids cry and, being so critical and judgmental and mean, really mean, and almost cruel at times. Like really, really going low, low, low. Doing things that are very, very low and almost off the deep end and low vibrations, really, really low levels of consciousness and not in the soul to do. You can see that if you see that show and if you see enough episodes, because I've seen back in 2020, I've seen those, those episodes of that show, and I've seen every episode of that show. So I know. So I don't know how I got into that show. I just did. I don't know. I started, probably because of the drama, because my Scorpio Saturn likes other people's drama. So anyway, I just thought that I'd bring that story into attention of what it means. And, the President of the United States right now is also in his ego, wanting more and more and more and more money, wanting to be power over, wanting to conquer each other. We got caught in the age of Aries of conquering others and power over and destroying others just to raise yourself up and be almighty and powerful and take others down. Like, that's a false sense of self, and that is showing that you don't feel secure inside yourself, and that is not authentic. That is not you being who you truly are. It is not. It is not. And so, let's hope that this South Node in Leo coming up this summer really, really has us look at all these things to where we can move into something that is for the greater good of all. For the good of all, kind and loving and considerate of the all, North Node and Aquarius. Let's hope that some changes politically happen. Some political changes happen through this North Node and Aquarius coming up, this summer. Let's hope some things change politically and, collectively with people. We don't need to live in a world like this where there's so much hate and division and tearing others apart to lift you up and doing all like, this is not a soul-centered world, and we need to live more in that world. So, the ego shouldn't be discounted completely. We're not trying to eliminate the ego because we can't. We just can't. I guess if you want to get very, very complex about it, the shadowy aspects of the ego. So the ego has physical needs, food, water, whatever, wants, all these kind of things like that. Wants, with all of that, all of these wants. Oh yes, the ego wants all these things. A nice car, fancy house, all these materialistic things. This person, all this. The ego wants. And the ego desires. I said heart's desire. But what I mean is what your soul wants, not what your ego wants. I'm going to argue that your soul does want things, does want to live out a certain life. Of what your soul really wants, and but in the ego, it's all mind. It's coming from a place of mind and rationality and all that, and desires. And this may be the truth with the ego, is that it is dealing with needs, wants, and desires, and so we can't get rid of it entirely. So it's both and with what I've just said. The ego tells you what you should do. Ego sort of tells you. And the ego operates on logic. The ego wants a simple answer to something, a direct, clear answer. When you go to oracle cards and you abuse them, wanting the same answer over and over again, wanting the right answer, the right answer, tell me what I should do and all this, and it's not what you want. You're operating from your ego. Wounded ego. Of not getting what you want, so you continue to push until you get what you want. Children become very, very egoic when they misbehave, when they fight and kick and scream and all that. I certainly was no exception to that. Certainly was not. But I'm sure there were kids that were a lot worse off than I am, and if I were to talk to my childhood self right now, I would say, get out of your ego. I know you're mad, I know you're this, but you don't have to live this way. You don't have to be so mad. What if you can be at a peaceful, loving, calm state of being and surrender the need to get exactly what you want and when you want it? So that's the thing with kids. Terrible twos. The Mars return at terrible twos. When they get into their teenage years, when you're, ages 0 through 12 or whatever, your ascendant is really, really dominant in your life, and then your sun takes over. When you're a teenager, you get into the ego and get into the complexities of human life and all the complications and all what we made it so complicated, all this and that. Oh, this reality. Wow, it's so complicated. We've made it so complicated. It's just a darn shame. And there's certain things that I know in myself that I will not succumb to in this reality. No, I will not live my life succumbing to ego, but to my soul. And that is the very, very truth of how I live my life. I have this awareness now, and I'm aware, very, very aware, that I'm not going to live my life this way. So the ego tells you what you should do. Analyzes things. Because the ego is the rational, logical mind. It analyzes. And going back to desires, I think that the ego has desires, and that, the soul has desires. So if you're following your soul, you're doing what truly feels right to you, and what, do all that. That's what I argue with this. So it analyzes. The ego analyzes things. breaks things apart, takes things together. Virgo energy. I'm not a fan of analyzing things and breaking things apart, being critical, being particular, It is just, there's a lot of benefit to that energy, and there's a lot of value in that energy. But the North Node is in Pisces right now, and I greatly choose Pisces over Virgo, if I have to be honest about that. So, but the ego does analyze. The ego critiques, says, this could be better. This could be different. This could be, little pinch here, little pinch there. This needs to be changed, or this needs to be fixed, or, that painting could be with this color. Or this is not the right place to go, or whatever. We need the ego to navigate this physical 3D reality. And that's what I'm going to say. But, and I'm going to get into it later, I'm not going to tell you now, but there's a truth that I want to say that I've heard from several, I think one spiritual person that I'm going to tell you later. Seeking to improve. Oh my gosh. Virgo North Nodes, listen up. Do not get caught in perfectionism. No. I will improve something if I feel that it needs improvement. In my soul, if I feel, because the soul is feeling, I'm going to get into that later, if I feel that it needs improvement, I'm going to improve it. But if I think that it's fine the way it is, like, I am enough. I am enough. And it's good the way it is. And all that. It's when we try to improve and fix and, perfect and raise ourselves to certain standards and just not, be present with what is and do all of that. When it comes to, just accepting things as they are. And getting so, with perfectionism, we get very, very in our ego because we get, perfectionism is not a good thing. It is a compulsive, obsessive way of trying to fixing it better, that you destroy the soul of it, that you destroy the, the beauty of it, the perfect imperfections of it, the integrity of it through perfectionism, with constantly trying to make it better and never feeling satisfied like it's enough. Instead of accepting it as it is. You can improve something while accepting it as it is. Improvement and perfectionism are very, very different things. Perfectionism is not a good thing, and I do not want a person to make a YouTube video or something where they are neutral and nuanced or all intelligent and arrogant to say like how perfectionism is a good thing, because it's not. It's not. It really isn't. Perfectionism has really, really messed with my life in the past, and I continue to struggle through perfectionism. It hasn't served me. So perfectionism, no. So don't tell me that something like that, like perfectionism, that it is a good thing when it has not served me in my life. So I didn't appreciate that. So anyway, the ego catastrophizes. The ego catastrophizes. This is all doomed. I'm never going to get the job. I'm never going to get the money. This tree's not going to be planted. I'm never going to decorate my house. This meal's not going to come together. I'm never going to find the right ingredients. This technical problem is not going to be fixed. My flight's going to be delayed, or I'll never get to this certain place. I'll never get to meet this person. That's the ego. See how destructive that is? See how destructive the ego can be? when it catastrophizes, when it looks at all the negatives, when it dwells on the negatives, when it's pessimistic. Can you see how it is? Wow. And we train people to expect the worst and all this. No. Expect the best. Surrender to the universe. Surrender to spirit. Surrender to the divine. Surrender to your higher self or whatever. God, or, whatever you call it, Fred. And trust and have faith that it will work out. And it will turn out good in the end. And maybe there's a detour. Like maybe you had your ego plan of going this certain direction. Oh, but then spirit gives you a detour that you didn't expect. But this is all for your highest good. This detour that you're going down is for your highest good because it is here to help you to evolve and help you to learn certain lessons that your soul needs to learn to become a better version of yourself. That's really, some universal truths I just spelled out right there. So, the ego catastrophizes. We're doomed. Oh, this bad thing's going to happen. And it is such a drained, emotional state. I catastrophize when technology doesn't work. Oh my gosh, I cannot handle it when when the internet goes out or whatever, and I'm learning to better handle that because of past experiences. Like, I need to just trust that, okay, it will get fixed. It will work out. I'll be fine. And in the meantime, what can we do? This is easier said than done. This is much easier said than done because I'm a human. I have emotions. I have insecurities, all that. We don't want to deny or just push down the process because that's like not, in our soul. That's, ego, resistant state, tight, contracted, pushing it down. We don't want to, suppress that. But we don't have to stay in that. And that's what I want to say. So, taking a tic-tac here so I can continue speaking. So the ego catastrophizes and dwells on the negatives, basically. It judges yourself and others. The ego judges. The ego can be so harsh and so mean. Ego can be indignant. Very indignant. It can be, wow, builds walls, builds hate and mean. We just only live from our souls. If every single person could live from their souls, we would have a much better world. We wouldn't judge others negatively. I got a judgmental comment last night and I just responded. I didn't react. I said, who are you to say that? You don't know my life and it's not my business to tell you, but I didn't appreciate that. That's not appropriate. And boom, here's the song that I made where I'm basically my proclamation of independence to say, I don't care what everybody thinks of me, and I'm gonna. And even though I may be wrong, I know I'm right. I wouldn't do something that would be wrong. I know that I'm right inside myself, and if somebody doesn't like it, it's not my business. Their opinion. People are gonna say things. It's okay. You have to learn to handle that and not take it personally. And not allow it to get the better of you, not have to be dictated. And how allow it to get the better of you that comes from being secure within yourself, feeling secure inside yourself, not allowing those little things that people say to get the better of you and your mental state and your peace and well-being. Feeling secure inside yourself. It's very important. So, judges, in the ego we can be mad, we can be preachy, we can be judgmental, hateful, arrogant, thinking that we know better than others. We don't understand that true wisdom is knowing that you do not know everything about anything, but being a continuous online learner. Or continuous, lifelong learner, excuse me. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. Looks at your main emotions. Looks at all of these main emotions inside of you. And so, jealousy and anger. Jealousy, wow. And am I exempt from feeling jealousy and anger? Is anyone? No. No. No matter, you can't hide from these emotions that we get. These negative emotions from our ego. Jealousy. Oh, why do, comparisonitis. So why don't, I have this and you have that. You shouldn't have that. And I should have it. I should have it. Like that whole thing. It should be mine. Mine. That's your ego. Jealousy. Extreme envy. The ego takes things as a threat. The ego takes things as a threat. That's what it does. It's triggered by the threat of losing something, whatever it could be. That could be jealousy and anger. Anger, ego. One way of saying it is that blocks us from achieving higher consciousness, from achieving a transcendence to the ultimate, move beyond the boundaries of just this physical 3D reality with the ego and all that. We live in the 3D and we're all human beings. But we don't have to get caught in the negative patterns of that. We can live in the third dimension with more positive soul-centered life. And then somehow we are living in a more fifth dimensional way in the third dimension. We're not going to another place. We're not just ascending in, spiritual nirvana and just being a monk and ignoring this physical world with all its stuff and life in general. Like, I found spiritual nirvana. Well, that's BS. Because stuff happens. We live in this reality, life on life's terms, and this is the cards that we've been dealt with. And I just think the whole thing about 5D needs to go away with doing that. And then the monks, the downside of monks is I'm meditating and I'm just so disconnected from reality that I'm not coming back to reality to balance it out and to find the middle way of coming back down to physical this society that we have created, and society is all around the world. And so, yes, there is benefit to being a monk. It cleanses your soul and all that, but you don't want to become so disconnected that, you just detach from really living your life, and all that. So I just want to throw that in there. So higher consciousness, higher state of being, more spiritual side of yourself. The ego, here's the thing about the ego. It's who you are as an individual. Yes. The ego is who you are as an individual. It separates you from others. It's who you are individually. The ego is me, I. To quote somebody that I follow with an Aries South node, me, I is the ego. And we need this aspect of the ego. You know, we need the individuality of the ego to help you to expand your awareness of yourself. The ego helps you to expand the awareness of yourself and everyone around us. Helps you tap into the oneness of all that is, because you're aware of your ego. You're aware of your individuality. You need to be aware of the ego. The ego has to be something that's inside of you so that you can be aware of it. You can be aware of who you are. That separates you from anyone else. You know, we can be interconnected, but in the end, we are also separate. We are also individuals. We also have our own personality to us, our own identity, our own likes, interests, things that make us different. And the ego is personality. So, it does help to have that understanding of the individual side of us in that way. The ego wants to rationalize things. Oh, it looks for a rationale and a linear explanation, a logical explanation out of anything. It doesn't do the invisible. It doesn't do trusting on feelings and vibes and the invisible and the intangible and anything abstract or anything like that, like music, art, spirituality, intuition, like the ego's like, no, that doesn't make any sense. That's weird. I don't like that. No, that doesn't make any sense. That's illogical. Ooh, that's weird. No, no. That's the ego. Okay. The ego, when you get a vibe, when you get an intuition from your soul, guess what stops you? Your ego. Because then you get into your head about it, and then you start overthinking it. And then you dismiss it like, oh, that's just a feeling, that doesn't matter, I'll just continue to do what I'm doing. And then you get out of a job because the company runs down. The house gets flooded. Somebody deceives you. Somebody breaks up with you. Somebody steals something from you. Because you didn't listen to your intuition, your inner senses that told you this is the right way to go. This is what's going to... The intuition the intuition is like a crystal ball that sort of tells you what's going to happen in the future. It's your inner knowing that's free for anyone to tap into, that tells you sort of what's going to happen if you should do this by the vibe. Like something feels off here. Like if you want to have a glimpse into the future, trust your vibes. Trust what feels right. And, go in whatever direction feels right to you. Feels correct for you. Feels like it, where the energy is aligned with what is for your highest good. And only you know what's for your highest good. So, I amend some of the lyrics that I said in that one of the songs that I did, where I was perfectly aware of myself, and I was perfectly aware that I was projecting in the song that I did. That's kind of, maybe the point of it, I don't know. But the ego wants to rationalize so many things. The ego hears. The ego hears. But does it really listen? Okay. The ego hears things, but it doesn't really tune in to the feeling. Somebody who's very, very much in their ego, someone hears something, it makes sense logically, and doesn't tune into how it really feels intuitively. Does it really feel right? Does it really make sense on a spiritually intuitive level? That's where it comes in really strongly. But doesn't really listen with openness. The ego is not open-hearted. It's an energy that separates you from others. It's an energy that's like, I'm separate from you. I'm disconnected. With the ego, there's you and the other. With the soul, we're all one. And when we surrender to the fact that we are all one, we can be so loving and compassionate and supportive and encouraging of one another when we understand that we are all one. The spirit believes and feels in things. Doesn't want to make sense of it logically or whatever. It believes and feels. As what I have read about the spirit is that it believes and then it feels, and the ego just rationalizes. So, you would understand that you're going to get into this situation with this person or whatever, but then you really feel like it's right. And you truly believe, like the soul really believes in that really strongly. The ego should not guide and drive our thoughts and actions, because this is why we have all of these narcissists and all of these mean, destructive, divisive people in our world today, because their ego is guiding their actions. Our souls should lead. Our soul should be the driver of our car, be the captain of our ship, not the other way around. The ego is meant to serve the soul. Okay, you really want this, and you really feel like you want to go in this direction. I will help you by getting the right tools and the right operating and all those kind of things. But ultimately, the soul leads the way. So, individuals living in a much bigger world is what this really, really comes down to. Is, living in this kind of way that is much bigger, much more expansive, instead of just a small little reality that's suction cupped at the end of our noses, where we are, so caught in our own lives, in our own personal lives, and all of that we forget the connection to the we as opposed to the me. And I mean that only in terms of our ego self and not our soul self and who we truly are. That's what I mean by we before me, so don't take it so literally. Like when I say we before me, when these spiritual teachers say we before me, they're not talking about just denying who you are. They're just talking about not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. There's a difference. And being so secure in yourself, you can actually be secure in your sense of self and be totally authentic, but then also have all this energy that's overflowing in your cup. You can only be humble and selfless and, all of this when you love yourself. When you are secure within yourself, when you, accept yourself as you are, then it's like a cup that is overflowing with love, abundance, energy, and all that, the compassion, service, that you have to give to others, and coming out of that. So, living, considering the we before the me. after, and while, and during you are focused on your own self and your own life and what you really want in your life. I mean, that may be the ego. I know a lot of the things that I may say in my videos, I may think that I may say them like the soul, but maybe they're the ego. That may be just how it is. I mean, things are just so complex and combined, and I mean, it's just so baked in to us that we cannot get rid of it. We will never be able to get rid of it. So, we define our job titles, our family titles. I'm the mother, or I'm the cook, or I'm the baker, or I'm the mailman, or the actor, or whatever, with what we are associated to through our egos, through the ego. That's all ego right there. And then the ego, it identifies with the rest of the world in terms of the world's thoughts and actions. But rationally, logically, at face value, okay? What about our essence? What about who we truly are inside ourselves? So the soul is interconnected to everyone and everything. That's the truth of it. There's an interconnectedness, the oneness with the soul behind everything that exists. There's joy. Every bird that sings, every tree, every flower, every human being, all the narcissists that are very, very egoic and egoistic, or egotistical, or egoistic. I'm sorry, my ignorance with this particular thing. I'm looking up egoistic qualities, egoic qualities. Behind every ego soul, excuse me, wrong. Behind everyone that's very, very in their egos, there is a vulnerable soul that's wounded, that needs healing, that needs love, that needs spiritual connection, that's not connected with the divine or their higher self or their intuition or what's for their highest good. And so, behind everyone is joy. I mean, I can't go into an explanation of it because I just don't have that advanced of a mind just yet, but this is what I can tell you. We're the only ones that make things, the human mind is the only one that makes things negative, so I mean, that's all I can say about that. So maybe when I get to like 40, I'll be sage enough to where I can, say all that, but anyway. I can't imagine what I will be like at 40. It's crazy. So, soul joy. To feel joyful on a soul level. This is the whole thing with kids. They're so pure and so innocent, but then you misbehave, you get so attached, and when you get so attached that things need to be a certain way, when things don't go your way, and all the material pleasures of life, and this and that and that, like ego is very, very complex. The soul is not complex. It's very, very simple. The soul and your intuition is simple. It just feels what's right. It just loves. It just cares. It just has empathy. It just has understanding and awareness of the all. That's what the soul is. So soul joy To feel joy inside your soul is a sense of presence, a sense of, I'll get into that later, but peace and well-being, as I've read. I'm not going to be afraid to say with whatever comes up, or whatever. My video, my sandbox, we play by my rules. So anyway, with what feels right, that is. I wouldn't do anything and say anything that doesn't feel right. So anyway, soul joy is peace that goes deep, deep peace. The ego feels joy is something that goes on in everyday life. Like that job I just landed, or that engagement, or that house I just got, or that, show that I want to watch, or that movie that I really, really liked, or all these things that give us joy, or this connection that we formed, or, whatever. Well, I don't know about that, but all these things in every day. This piece of jewelry that I bought, feeling joyful and really valuing that's all ego. Isn't it said that as we grow older, this is kind of sad, but you know what? At the end, with all this wisdom that we have, when we get to the other side, when we're just about to enter those pearly gates, we come back to ourselves. But when we mature, the really, really sad thing is we lose connection from our childlike joy and our childlike self. Responsibility, the things you have to do, the duties, the this and that, and all the Saturnian stuff, and all of these things that we have to pay for, and the job, and the no. We take this world so seriously, and we take it so heavily, that we're disconnected from our childlike joy, from our inner child, from our soul essence, and we become conditioned. We become conditioned in living in egoic, rational, logical ways. This is how we become conditioned. Like I do find this very, very sad that it does have to be this way. I mean, in my true, honest feelings, we shouldn't get rid of, logic entirely, but we should think of the greater good of all, and we should be kind and loving and compassionate. That affects prices, that affects how people treat each other, that affects wars, that affects, so many things. Because again, the ego is logic, and we shouldn't get rid of it, but we shouldn't be so stuck in logic and allow logic to guide our lives. We should allow our intuition to guide our lives, and we should operate on logic, the ego. We should operate on feeling and intuition and what feels right in the moment. It's the world that we're leaning towards, and we're moving away from those roads of belief right now. So, condition into living out the ego lives instead of the soul lives. Oh, just believe that, you have to earn it. Or you can't have this. All these family members that tell us that you can't go after your dreams, that you can't pursue what makes your soul happy. That they're conditioning you into getting a certain job, being a doctor or a lawyer, having to make this money and all that, and having, being trained in society, you have to go to this job and do these things and meet up with these people and, be in these situations. Like, no. Because that's not authentic. That's not authentic. It's not in your soul essence of what you truly feel is right. You truly want inside your soul. It's about experiencing an inner sense of joy and peace. And you'll know spiritual soul peace when you feel bliss enough to feel present. When you're in your ego joy or in your head. Oh, I've been there. I am not present with certain things, and I'm just so fixated on that other thing. And so in my head, romanticizing about this great thing, this show that I watched, this book I got, or this person that I start following, or this video that I made, or, whatever, those materialistic things. But, true joy is, true joy is present. It's here and now. It's all that's true joy. True sense of bliss. Not the ego joy of the everyday where we lose presence with our lives in that way. And I'm not going to rule that out entirely. I don't want to demonize that. I don't want to demonize that. Because so much of what gives us joy makes life worth living, and we shouldn't just cut that out. But being aware that isn't spiritual joy and soul joy is all that I'm expressing here. So, it's about recognizing the difference between egoic thoughts versus downloads and insights from your soul. The ego thoughts are like conscious logical thoughts that we feel with one thought creates another thought, and all that. One thought responds to another. With your soul thoughts, it is, just thoughts from a higher mind, thoughts where you're interconnected with the all, thoughts from a higher spiritual plane, higher spiritual place. Philosophical, wisdom, love, compassion. You're more advanced in your sort of thinking when it comes to that, advanced spiritually in your thinking when it comes to that. And Pisces, does come after Aquarius for a reason. In the zodiac, Aquarius is about the all, and Pisces said, well, you know what? We don't have to be so cut off and detached. We can actually have compassion and feel and be empathetic and be, in the dream world and actually dream and be in the mystery of it and be in the state of reflection to create our reality. And so that's what Pisces says. And so, egoic thoughts are logically analytical, and they do come from the voice in your head. The voice that I had that was, saying all these curse words and all, that was my ego. And the voices in your head that tells you should do this or, whatever, that's your ego. With the ego, we think a thought, and then, as I said before, so, thoughts that come from an inner knowing. Well, I've just seen, just looking at this window lifetime, I've seen 2 individuals on scooters, and I've keep repeating these individuals on scooters, electric scooters, as if I've set a trend when I used to ride one around my neighborhood. I don't know, they're becoming very, very popular nowadays. So, but I'm not going to be on mine anymore because I'm not willing to take risks and injure my teeth like I did last year. So, anyway, I've caused enough damage to myself. I don't need to cause any more. So, so thoughts that come from an inner knowing, spiritual energy, felt, feel like, feelings, as opposed to thoughts. So the thoughts that we have when we're connected to our soul, we feel them as opposed to just rationalize them and think them. We really, really feel the thought. Really feel the emotions, the essence, the deeper meaning behind it. In the ego, in the soul, not the ego. Kidding me? No. In the soul, we just know something. If we're connected to our souls, We don't have to imagine it. We don't have to overthink it. We don't have to rationalize it. We don't have to make it logical or linear or whatever. We just know. In our very essence, in our very heart. We just know. We don't have to overthink, get logical, operate from that place. And, we can, I kind of made this point before, thinking and acting from a higher state of consciousness. It's really, what it comes down to is living that out really, really strongly is, that kind of thing, exactly. So thinking and acting from that place of consciousness. It's about choosing a thought, choosing the thought or action. Just because it feels intuitively right. You're getting a sense from your intuition. And being connected to your soul is about tuning in to your inner joy. Tuning in to what really, really brings you joy on a soul level. So that's what it's really about. What truly brings you joy in your life, contentment in your life. And again, that's different from one person to the next. It's different from one person to the next, and that's not a one size fits all. And in my humility, that is a lesson that I am learning, because I had several philosophical discussions with family members last night and this morning about some things to sort of clear the air of some certain things that need to be brought into enough integration as much as they can be, and to make me feel more at peace on a soul level within myself. So, spirit, soul, and spirit meanings. I don't think that I need to cover that. But it's about connecting to your inner energy. Connecting to your intuition, your inner self that guides the right choices, the right actions that are right for you. Not because they make logical sense, but because they feel right and that feel natural and comfortable to you. Oh, you have to work so hard. You have to struggle and you have to. It's tough. You have to work really, really hard and long. And you only get something if you work hard enough and earn it. And you only get something if you're willing to work for it. And gosh, that is an outdated belief. It says. You know what that says? It says that we have to do it all on our own. We have to do it all on our own. We can't rely on our intuition. We can't rely on our higher self. We can't rely on spirit to help us, to support us. Not to do it for us, but for us to co-create our lives with spirit. So I just never, ever, ever, ever have agreed with the whole earning things and just the whole... That's a Saturnian, logical, egoic truth that we have made. That's not the actual real truth. The actual real truths of life are coming from spirituality. If you want to have any truths to life, they're spiritual ones. Because that's, that's the real truth of it. And I have such solace to know that these truths, are spiritual. That there's something higher at work here. That what is tangible only comes from the intangible. From the essence of what that thing is. So, okay. So guiding you into right choices and actions, and it doesn't have to be a hard thing. It can be natural and comfortable. It doesn't have to be an egoic thing. It can be, what you feel natural and comfortable with. It's about being more present in your life, to experience it with all your 5 senses, with being at peace with yourself, with loving yourself, with being calm, with being aware, with being loving mindfully, living in a love. And when you're calm and mindful, you're open-minded, you're calm, you're loving, and you're also wise. You're also very, very wise. And, Sadhguru and the Dalai Lama and Gurudev, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, whatever, that's the person that I am thinking of, that when I was prepping for this video and doing this video, I have the image of him in my mind. And so those people are very, very, very wise, and they truly live in a spiritual, soul-centered way. They are not in their egos. No. Nope. So are monks. Monks aren't in their egos either. They're connected, they're very, very wise, they're the soul level, and whatever. So having joy, simple joy. Honestly, what brings us contentment on a soul level is different for everyone, but if you're expecting so much to be happy, you're expecting yourself to have so many things to be happy, and you're so attached to feeling the emotions of lack, not feeling grateful, not feeling satisfied, not with wanting to defend and hoard and and not share and or basically taking and consuming and getting more and more and more in order to feel like it's enough. It's a bottomless pit. If you follow your ego, it's a bottomless pit. And the same goes with money. Going back to money. You can have those things, but if you're in your ego, guess what? You can't. Those are things. Like when we say pipe dreams, it doesn't mean that it's out of our possibility. It's only out of our possibility if we're just living from a low, egoic and logical place. When we are connected to the universe, anything is possible. So that's all that I was getting at with that point in that episode on Money Cannot Buy Happiness, going back to what I said at the beginning of this episode. So, feeling an inner sense of security inside yourself is also the soul. Like when you are connected to your soul, you feel more secure inside your sense of who you are. The ego has such a tight grip and rigid attachment to your own experiences. To your own experiences, not anyone else's experience. The soul is not bound by limitations. It's not bound by boundaries. The soul has no boundaries and limits. It understands the interconnectedness of all things. One experience is just as valuable, as another experience. Like in soul energy, in spiritual energy, we are all one. We are all equal. I'm not above anyone else. Again, not me, I, but about the we. We before me. So, the soul says we are all one. The soul wants each lifetime to be filled. The soul is open to growth. The ego, if you think the ego is open to growth, you're mistaken, because it's not. It is stubborn. It will defend itself. It will fight against any new idea that seems like an attack and an affront and a threat to it. When you're an ego, you keep yourself small and logical and all this stuff. When you're connected to your soul, you live a more authentic life. You do what really makes you feel joy, really makes you feel Like your life has a sense of meaning and purpose to it. So, your soul wants experiences and growth from each lifetime, upon lifetime. Continuing to learn lessons. That's really where really what it can be all about is the lessons that you accumulate over one lifetime and the next. The soul is eternal. The soul is eternal. It's also eternal. It's not just bound to this lifetime, but you die, your body dies, but your soul lives on. That's also truth about the soul. So from lifetime into lifetime, with each reincarnation, you grow and you continue to learn, continue to evolve. So which one are you going to feed? Which one are you going to feed? Your soul or your ego? That's your choice. The ego knows only what you feed it. It's not intuitive. Can't read sense energies. It can't pick up on vibes. It can't, do all those things. The ego cannot do that. And we've trained AI into following and catering to ego and not intuition. But the fact is, it's a machine. It'll never be intuitive. An AI is beautiful. And you know why it's beautiful? We created it. We created it. We programmed it with our knowledge, our history, our facts about life, all of the human stuff. And there's beauty in all of that. So if I have to be perfectly honest, there is beauty in AI, not with the machine part of it, but because of what's coming out of it, that because it reflects us. AI isn't just this thing that just is unconscious and totally independent. We programmed it. We created AI, and we did that. And I know that somebody that I follow will disagree with that, but no, it's the truth. We created artificial intelligence. We programmed it in the way that we did, so it does exist in that way. There's such people as people who train AI. So that's what I want to correct about that in that way. So, ego knows only what you feed it, just like AI. AI knows only what it's being fed, only what it's programmed. The AI and ego are very, very much related, because AI knows only what it was programmed to know. And the ego, well, same thing. And AI cannot intuit. AI cannot intuit. No matter how advanced it will be, it will never replace who we are as human beings. Never. And we cannot allow it to take over. And a lot of people are very, very in a state of fear right now that AI is going to completely replace us and take over and all that. We cannot allow it to take over who we are as human beings. We cannot. So, okay. So, when we fall prey to what is called spiritual narcolepsy, we fall asleep at the wheel. We forget our interconnection with spirit, with the divine, with our higher self, with our intuition, with the oneness of all that is. We lose sight of connecting to a sense of something bigger, of something more, something higher consciousness, transcending to that. At that point, our egos are completely catered to and attended to, and they've been given the food that they need to get. Completely, relies on what you can rationalize and see, basically at face value, and not really feeling it. The soul's the one that feels it deeply, spiritually. So it's about focusing more on what you feel rather than what is on the surface or at face value. How you can really move into your soul is, how does this make me feel? Really? How does this thing make me feel? Deeply. Deep down internally. How does it make me feel? Surrendering that, ego attachment to fight and this, powerful things. Focusing on how we feel. It's about, owning our authenticity. Owning who we are in the messy, vulnerable, and imperfect parts that make up who we are as human beings, honoring that and loving that and appreciating that. So, accepting, it's really all about accepting who we are. And I think self-awareness does come from, maybe the ed or something, or I don't know, psychological terms, but self-awareness is not just a logical ego thing, it's also a soul thing. And I want to do another podcast on self-awareness, because I think that's really how I make a lot of my videos, is becoming more aware of your behaviors, your thoughts, your actions, your personality, yourself, through the lens of astrology, through the lens of spirituality, through the lens of all that. And I want to be a very, very self-aware person in my life, and I'm becoming that every day. So I'm living that out. So accepting who you are and being self-aware of how you show up in the world, and what is your higher purpose? What is that higher purpose that you really feel that you're really living out and embodying? So, becoming aware of that higher purpose. In a way. In your higher purpose, tapping into your higher purpose as your soul. We're almost done here. In truth, we co-create our lives with spirit, manifesting our reality, and it's both and. Both we co-create and manifest our reality with spirit, and we need to surrender to life on life's terms. It's both and, not either or. It's both. Knowing that we have power, that we're not victim to the world, but know that we don't have to be in our small little reality, in our own egoic reality, and judging ourselves and working, slaving away, that we do have a connection to spirit. Living out both of those energies into one, and integrating both of those energies into something that's coherent. We need to live coherently with, with the both and of, manifestation and life on life's terms. So the ego is supposed to serve the soul, not the other way around. The soul is much more aware than the ego is. That's for darn sure. It's much more aware of the interconnectedness of all this stuff I discussed. And this includes helping us with becoming more self-aware of ourselves. This does help with that a lot. So soul thoughts come from a more higher spiritual level of consciousness and conscious awareness. Suppose ego thoughts are low, like the ego is the small self, the spiritual is the higher self, and the soul is the higher self, and then my very last thought is being able to discern which thoughts come from your spirit, your higher self, which come from your small self and your false self, false sense of self, which is your ego self. understanding the difference between your ego and your soul will really, really help you to live a more, peaceful, happy, joyful, and spiritually aligned life with your highest good, with your higher self, with what the divine really wants for you to live out that feels authentic to you inside of yourself. And that is what we can really, really embody to make the most of life on this planet Earth, right here and right now. Okay, everybody, that is really all that I have to say on the ego and the soul. This has been a long masterclass about the ego and the soul. That's really all that I wanted to discuss. I hope that you found a lot of value out of this. This was a really, really deep dive. I will see you on tomorrow's episode, which I want to talk about. I want to discuss an aspect that I have in my chart, Sun sextile Lilith, accepting the darker aspects of who you are. I want to discuss that tomorrow. Get to that because I think that I also really, really want to take a look at that. Thank you for tuning in. I want to get off now because I want to go have some lunch now. But so anyway, I will put this video together and you will see this, and you will see this video premiere, hopefully, if you're seeing this during the premiere, and on YouTube and on Spotify. Do all the things that you can do with this video. And I will see you in the next episode of the Cosmic Sky Podcast. Take very good care of yourselves, and so will I.